Good afternoon. This is Rich Ness, Executive Vice President of Open Systems Media, and I'm here for this week's installment of 5 Minutes With. So this week I have the pleasure of speaking with Thomas Stockmeier, who is the Chief Operating Officer of AMS. Hello, Thomas. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm fine. I'm looking forward for this interesting 5 minutes, and I hope we can cover a lot of space here.
Well, we're going to go as fast as we can, so we're going to get right into it. So AMS is making a name for itself in the role of sensing, especially as it relates to the IoT. Now, for most people, it's obvious what needs to be sensed, if that's the way you say it. But you guys have really taken that to a different level. Would you please explain to me some of the things you guys are working on and how and what you can actually do with sensing for the in the IoT?
Yes, I gladly explain that. Basically, when we talk about the Internet of Things, the idea is that things communicate with each other, and the question is then, of course, what should these things communicate about, and that drives the need for sensing, and same as humans sense with their eyes, with their ears, with their fingers, with their taste. These are senses we all provide. The AMS, it has the target to provide the whole variety of sensors, and then to combine these sensing functions in sensor hubs to provide very, very distinct sensor solutions, as we call it. So we have the sensing function, but we also interpret what we receive from these sensors in our integrated circuits, and we add memory, microprocessing, and software to make that kind of information easily accessible to the user, or to transmit that data wirelessly between the so-called things. Whereas we have yes. Go ahead.
You're describing what I would perceive as a potential problem, and that is you're amassing a huge amount of data. When you're sensing things that are that minute, so somebody has to make sense of all this data. I mean, how do we do that?
Yes, sensing needs to make sense. That is for sure. I think there's two things to it. First of all, today we have the means to store and to also to interpret a big amount of data in a very cost-effective manner, and the technology progresses fast, so that we can do this more efficiently, more effectively. So my concern is not that this data cannot be managed. The question is much more for how long do you need this data. When we, for example, talk about biosensing, you can get data for your immediate feedback, but maybe it's interesting to get data over 10 years to see certain trends. Same in other areas. So one concern is how long do you keep that data? The second is, of course, who has access to this data? Who can access this, and how can you avoid that people who should not have access to it get access to it? So I think these are areas which all need to be considered and to be solved. AMS, in its role, we are a sensor solutions company. We can contribute to this. We can, of course, comply with standards and security items, which hopefully will be developed or which are already there. But we cannot, so to say, take care of that issue. So our role is to provide the sensor data, to provide it in a very effective and clear means. And I think then the handling of the data, the interpretation of that data, is then on a higher system level.
Okay, so now you bring up another potential problem, and I don't know if you see this as your problem or not, but security. Some of the things that you're sensing and some of the data that you're pulling in is something people may not want shared with the world, or potentially shared with the world because of hackers. Is that something that AMS has to concern itself with, or is that your customer's problem?
I think it's our customer's problem, to be honest. We, of course, when the customer has certain requirements about coding of that data, in particular when we transmit it wirelessly, we can comply with that. We have a very long experience in wireless connectivity. The other, what is in our domain is, so to say, the reliability of the data. It's not only that you create the data and somebody may access it, but the other security item is, what if this data is wrong? In particular, if we say in the biosensing area, there we have a liability. If what we sense as heart rate or oxygen level of the blood or whatever you have there is wrong, that would be our concern. So when we do sensor solutions, a great deal of the work goes into, is that data which we sense the correct data?
Okay, so you sort of passed the buck, but not completely. So I'm okay with that. I'm afraid our 5 minutes is up. It sure does go quick. So I'd like to thank you, Thomas. That was Thomas Stockmeier. He is the COO of AMS, and I am Rich Nass with Open Systems Media. And that was 5 minutes with AMS. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you very much.